is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter. The podcast for the true martial artist.
Well, our podcast producer's having quite the issue.
Technical difficulties.
Proctological difficulties. His asshole remains destroyed due to hemorrhoids. We believe due to too much explosive power escaping cross-side hold downs. So if this is a...
yeah, you just brought up an interesting point that I had never thought of.
Go ahead.
When I was thinking about assholes. Is that your... I'm going to be a little bit more mature. Your sphincter is constantly tense.
Is that the real word for it, sphincter?
Well, a sphincter is just, I think, like
circular
a
muscle.
like a circular, like sort
Muscle,
of
yeah.
muscle like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, I guess we're right.
Your
Your anal sphincter, if you want to be technically correct.
Your eyeball sphincter.
Yo, laughing hurts a lot.
It's always tense and tight because it has to stay closed.
Yes.
So it's like, is there any other muscle in your body that's always?
I don't know.
It's just I never thought about it that way. But you never have to think to keep your asshole closed.
It's like breathing.
Any other muscle you contract, you have to like consciously contract.
Right.
You know, but like except for that one, it's interesting. It's very.
That's insane.
I don't like how serious you've gotten about Devin's asshole or his sphincter.
yeah.
It's all of our assholes. It's not just his.
You know what's great is he's turned his desk into a standing desk now because he can't sit down. There's no donut soft enough. Here we are at the Ninja Rob podcast. We will be discussing Devin's asshole, jiu-jitsu topics, and maybe other people's assholes. Who knows? Any assholes you want to talk about?
No.
Well, you know what?
No comment.
I will introduce you then.
I lost a golden opportunity there.
Yeah, I'll let you introduce
Any
yourself.
assholes you'd like to talk about?
Hi, I'm Marco Perazzo. I'm the head co-host here at the Ninja Rob podcast, and I'm definitely, hopefully I never feel his pain, but I feel his pain. Devin is just standing there. He's going to have low back issues for how he's going to sit and stand.
Yeah.
And I'm here with my podcast partner.
Sitting comfortably.
That's fucked up.
Sphincter engaged.
Yep. Tim Carpenter's my name.
Yes. How's it, your sphincter? You're all good? You're all
Sphincter's good.
Nice.
Everything's pretty good.
2 out of 3 sphincters are good.
I haven't eaten anything all day.
No?
A little bit hungry, but
That's nice.
other than that, I'm good.
All right. Awesome. We had the big Pan Americans this weekend or last weekend.
How do you feel about everybody calls it pans?
Well, because I believe that the Pan Ams is a term used by some sort of international sports committee that they can no longer use the Pan Ams.
So you can't market it as Pan Am?
No, cannot. I think it's a trademark.
I just find it annoying to say pans.
Yeah, I'm looking for a fryer. Yes, so I'm not nearly as annoyed at the pans, but I'm looking to start new beef with anybody. If anybody wants to start beef with me, we can go for it. But speaking of the pans, Tim, Will Weiser,
Double bronze? Silver and bronze.
silver and bronze.
Yep.
I brought him to silver.
Went 2-2.
Made sure he didn't get disqualified in his first match.
Yeah. Well, I think they wouldn't have disqualified him. They would have said, hey, take your
They've
hoodie.
disqualified people for less.
Yeah, but I think they would have been like, hey, man, take your hoodie off.
I doubt it.
As he walked out.
I doubt it.
I think they have to they can only disqualify you once the match starts, which I don't think they would have let the match start
with that. Okay.
without the hoodie on.
Good call. Good call. But
But I appreciate you being there for him.
yeah, for sure. And I will. I know you.
If any listeners, if you ever see Mark at a tournament, he'd be glad to coach you, no matter what he's got going on.
No, yeah. Just come
right
and
up,
get me. Yeah. Just
help you out.
add to my Patreon. So what I will say about Will is that it didn't seem like the moment got to him from a standpoint of pre-match jitters. Like he was like pointing out people to me at one point. Yeah, that's Tractor. I trained with him at Marcella's. I go, dude, focus on the match you got coming up in 2 seconds. Like, relax. But being at the Pans, I really saw some things that if you train a lot and don't compete a lot, you get lost in the pace as a competitor, right? Where a lot of people can't switch that gear, right? Go from a training pace to a competition pace. Now, Tim, what have you what's your experience been with that gear shift?
If you don't compete, that's why people that are really good in the gym often kind of do terribly if they don't compete often, and they're very sporadic with when they compete. They just are not ready for that. it almost doesn't matter who's better at jiu-jitsu. It's like who's better at the competition under whatever rule set.
Yeah, it's almost like they bring a competition pace to training, and then they're not used to the competition pace in competition.
Right. So we were talking about it last week, and this week I started doing it. We did some competition training, and I had guys doing sort of like scenarios where, so guy on bottom, you're down by an advantage. So and you have 1 minute to score an advantage, or score a point to win.
Okay.
So it's like when you set a 5-minute clock, you can take 5 minutes to do stuff. But a lot of times in a tournament, things don't get going until 3 minutes in.
Right.
So you only have 2 minutes to really fight.
Right.
So giving guys like real short time periods and saying like you have to, and like an idea of like think that you're losing already, so you need to win. So you have a minute to score something. Same thing. Then we did some drills on top where if like you're down by 2 points, so the only way you can win is if you score a guard pass. So for these 2 minutes, you attack nonstop trying to pass the guard.
Right.
Different scenarios like that I started adding in just because basically based off what we talked about last week.
And what I think that some people make the mistake of thinking that sense of urgency is pace, right? And sense of urgency is a much different idea than pace. Like, pace is the intensity throughout the whole match, right? Like sense of urgency can come and go. It's like, I'm down by 2. I need to bring that back up. But there's a lot of really good competitors that they can control the pace. The pace can be frenetic. It could be slow. It could be methodical. You look at a guy like Keenan Cornelius. He's not a high pace guy.
No.
But he controls the pace just about in every match that he competes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's ways to sort of put pressure on people that don't require you to actually be in contact with them. You know what I mean? It can just be like movement, whether it's getting them to move forward, getting them to move back. When you're on top, just kind of like hovering over them rather than like engaging in a guard pass.
Right.
So that's one of the things I had talked about with Will before the match is, once he sweeps, you don't have to just sweep the guy like you do in training, and you'll sweep the guy, get on top, and you'll immediately just start passing the guard and trying to advance position. But it's like in a 4-minute, when you got, 5-minute match, you spend 2 minutes feeling the person out. You're on the ground for a minute, you sweep them, you have 2 minutes to work. It's a short time to really pass a really good guy's guard. So you might want to just like hover and give that guy that sense of urgency. A lot of times that sense of urgency will open up an easy pass for you or an easy submission later on towards the end of the match.
Right. And, piggybacking off of that, what I saw an awful lot when I would say, okay, this guy's not used to this pace. Pace can sometimes also be scrambling and countering, where people in training, all right, I just got swept, I'm just going to work off my back. Where in a tournament situation, getting swept is the difference between getting a medal and not, and not getting a medal. So you saw that an awful lot where the guys they fought every inch of every point advantage. Like there was nothing that was given away easily. And the people that can embody that seem to be, better competitors, regardless if they have a slow pace, methodical pace, they pull you out of theirs, if they're a counter. But as long as they know what the score is and they realize that every point is super important, unless they're up 1,000,000 to 2, then it doesn't matter. But everything's important. And you see some guys, they'll go for a technique and they're used to it finishing in training, and now they've gotten countered and their back is taken because they're not used to that level of fight.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday when I was doing the drills. I told guys, I was like, if you're trying to score off your back and you have a minute to work, you probably don't want to pull the guy into your closed guard because that'll allow him to just lock onto your hips, and he can stall out a minute easy.
Right, and not lose the match, get disqualified. Yeah,
and then
short enough time.
Another guy, and I saw a couple guys immediately with because we had them starting in an open guard, and immediately they would pull to a closed guard,
right?
Because they felt comfortable there, but the guy on top can just wait at that point,
right, and lock it down.
And then the other thing was that one kid was just going for submissions, and it's like it's pretty easy in 1 minute to not get submitted,
right?
Even if you shoot triangles and arm bars all over the place, the guy can just keep scrambling out, and unless they're really close, you're not going to get an advantage.
Right, and it's awesome, like fun jiu-jitsu, but that's not what wins, right? Like
that's why. But it was cool because we did a couple rounds of it, and after the first 2 rounds, where there was like an adjustment period where they were just rolling normal at first, and then once they realized the point of the drill, then they started picking it up. So I'm going to add a lot more of that in.
Nice. So I do know that there's just some recent so I've seen it before, and recently about the 2017 ADCC came up, and I think think there was 115 matches in the last ADCC. School of Grappling put it out. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, I just looked.
I think 78 of the matches were won by the guy that scored first, and his opponent didn't score at all. And then that's more than it's like 60% of the matches won by the person that scores first. So how important is that?
Yeah,
right.
Being first is important in any sport, any competition. You
Right.
want to, because when you score first, you're automatically in control of the pace.
And what's crazy is that they scored first, and it was a shutout after that. Right. So how difficult is it to come back? You're losing, and you're trying to make stuff happen, and you're not scoring.
ADCC is really hard to score points too. Like to score a takedown, you have to like get the guy on his back and hold him.
Okay.
What would count as a takedown in wrestling would not get you a takedown in ADCC.
That's fair on both sides, though, right? I mean, it's not easy for anybody, right? There's not the one person that has an advantage.
Yeah. I'm just saying points are very hard to score in ADCC.
And I think hopefully what they're trying to do with that is get more action, get more submissions, get more pace. Even though I don't think a lot of matches were finished with submissions, not nearly as many with points. But talking about competition and getting into that was nice. What'd you have for lunch?
Did they pick that up on the?
Yeah, they came.
I told you I haven't eaten anything.
Oh, nice. You're burping up nothing.
Yeah.
Nice. So what I saw, and I particularly with some of the matches that I was coaching, was when the competitor did something that was out of their wheelhouse or outside of their game plan, right? Didn't seem to work out well for them, right? The day of competition isn't the day to experiment or do something you don't normally do. And the people that I saw that happen to, they wound up either losing the match or getting points scored on them. So what piece of advice that I would give somebody is stick to your game plan. Only do things that are out of character when you need to throw that Hail Mary. If you're not in a Hail Mary situation, there's no need to do Hail Mary moves.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have had times in competition where I've pulled off things that I'd never even practiced and they worked perfectly, but those are very rare.
Right.
And I wouldn't, it's almost like if I had gone out there and tried it right away, it probably wouldn't have worked.
Right.
It just kind of like fell into it and happened in a scramble.
Right.
But yeah, like if you've got a game plan or techniques that you've worked on, you stick to them. And if none of that's working and you're losing, then it's time to sort of like just open up and try. But
no, and what I will give, I give Will a lot of credit on, since I don't really see him train very much. He comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, can you help me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, 100%." He goes, "I'm gonna do this." So I'm not going into the match blind. He's telling me, "This is my game plan. This is what I plan on doing. This is how I'm gonna try and execute it." So if for all those competitors out there, if you're ever getting coached by somebody that's not your normal coach, make sure you have a conversation with them so that they understand what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's one thing I always try to stress with whether they're people that are fighting in Muay Thai or competing in Jiu-Jitsu, especially for their first time, is it's just like, what are you going to open up with? Not like what's going to happen. Like, what are you going to do in the match? Not like, I'm going to take him down, I'm going to pass his guard, I'm going to take his back, and I'm going to choke him. That's like way too much.
Right.
Like, that probably won't happen.
Right.
But like, what's your first move going to be? So I had in Muay Thai, what I'll have them do is like your first move, like your first combination you're going to throw, like you'll drill that for rounds and rounds and rounds,
right,
just to make sure, like, even if you get knocked out, you at least land that first combination. Because that, again, talking about pace and setting the tempo of a match, if you automatically land what you planned on landing, everything, you're at least like winning that first.
And it's a comforting feeling too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's
You're like, I can do it.
Right. And I'm doing it in this high stress
The
situation.
same thing with Will. We had him working on, he wanted to pull guard, but he's always had trouble pulling guard because he would end up in like double guard pulls and stuff. So we had him working on shooting and pulling right off the shot.
Right.
And then there's one match he said he actually got the takedown.
So no, he finished the takedown, but got reversed.
Got reversed off.
Right. And I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier, is it felt like in training he would have finished it for sure, 100%. But because it was for the gold medal, the guy's like, fuck that.
He didn't concede it.
Reversed him and then, wound up finishing him for there. But it was like, okay, he's shooting to pull and then he's shooting to shoot. And I'm like, great. And then next thing I know, the dude just reverses him right away. Like Bill Bell had a similar situation where he spun out of some things from the feet, and on the ground, he does a really good job of spinning out. And I think he tried to take that idea of like, okay, this works for me on the ground, so it'll work for me from the feet. And the couple times that he gotten taken down in the one match for the gold medal was because he spun out of a situation that made it worse for him than actually being more helpful. Just a little bit out of character. What I did see at the Pans is how important wrestling is in certain weight classes. Not a lot of guys, certain weight classes, but also certain age divisions. Certain age divisions, you didn't see too many guys pulling guard. So more guys, trying to compete from the feet, get to their wrestling.
The masters or the younger guys?
Masters, more masters. It was
More wrestling.
I was more in tune with the masters because Will was competing masters, Bill, and a couple of the other guys we had competing were doing the masters, and I was like, all right, man, people are still, believing the takedown. Not a lot of unnecessary guard pulling as a tactic, as opposed to just like the only thing you have.
Yeah.
Because clearly Will has a double because in a different situation he would have finished it.
Right.
Right. It was just that whatever happened. The guy reversed him. But I think in the younger guys divisions, you see a lot of guys single grip, boom, right to their butt, and then play from there. So that was crazy, man. So there's the other thing that I wanted to talk about: training moves versus competition moves. Right. So it's different than pace. It's different than doing stuff that's out of character. There are
I think this is a very important
topic or idea, right? So I've seen it an awful lot where guys can, if they're playing from the feet, they could get hip throws. They could get they call it the rundown in wrestling, like that kind of stuff. Man, I've never or infrequently ever seen a hip throw or a rundown work in jiu-jitsu, gi or no gi competition, to a high level or to a certain level of efficacy. And it was something, and we'll talk about, not to beat up on Bill Bell, but using him as the example, is that the couple times he went for the rundown, was basically like a wrestling hip throw, is that it was too easy and too easily and too quickly countered in that high stress, higher level athlete, more competitive atmosphere, right? You're not bullying those dudes into making it work. They're all right around the same weight as you,
right?
Like that kind of stuff. What's your experience been with the training move versus?
I notice it way more with submissions. There's a thing you can submit a lot of people in training with moves that make people uncomfortable, but especially at a high level, doing a shitty guillotine where you're just kind of like cranking on somebody's neck, or headlocks, things that just crank and don't actually threaten to break things. If things aren't like super tight and precise, chokes that are more face cranks, a lot of times people will tough that out in competition.
Right.
Like I know for me, like if I'm in training and somebody has my neck in a precarious position, I'll probably tap because I just want to keep training.
Right.
But if I'm in a competition and my neck is popping and cracking, I'll probably just tough it out because I know it's like if I can get out of it, I'll try to get out of it.
And you may not feel it for a couple hours anyway.
Right. Yeah. Like it'd be worth it to get a small injury in a competition more so than.
Is that Nicolette? Does she not know that we're doing the podcast? Hey, Nikki, you're calling us right now.
She should.
If you're listening.
Can we put her on?
We don't have we had that plugged in. So Nicolette's calling her dear husband.
Yeah, I'll get back to her later.
Ah, that's awesome. So the idea that there are some submissions. For me, I saw it more with takedowns because it was a lot more relevant to Bill Bell's game, where I kind of let him develop what he was going to do through this Pans camp, and the rundown was something that was being very successful for him. Once we brought it out into the wild in a higher level competition, it wasn't nearly as successful as it was in training and in a tough training room. But so there's definitely moves that work in the room because of those ideas that you're talking about. Like people just don't want to fight out of it.
I see that a lot with footlocks too. Is like guys in training tap really quick to like heel hooks and toe holds and stuff, but guys in competition they'll let their shit break compared to again, it goes back to like in training, people just don't want to get injured.
Right.
In competition, people just want to win.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of times you can develop a false sense of security in techniques that you're good at because people are tapping out of fear rather than out of actual.
Now, do you think that carries over with the heel hook? The fear of the heel hook carries into competition? Yes or
sometimes, but not at a high level.
Okay.
At a high level, guys will, will let their things. Will either just fight out of it, tough it out, or let it break.
More needs to occur before they tap.
Right, like a lot of. I mean, at the highest level, you have to like injure people before they'll, just to make them scream.
Right, like
you know?
Tex Johnson versus Felipe Pena.
Yeah. And if you remember Craig Jones and Leandro Lowe, like I think Craig Jones even said, he's like his knee and ankle were like popping.
Well, I think Leandro Lowe said later, he goes, "Yeah, I tore my meniscus in that match."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he just accepted the injury.
Right.
So I think that happens a lot, especially Brazilian guys don't seem to like to tap to like toe holds.
Right.
I've seen a lot of guys get their feet just like twisted around.
You ever see the Mal brothers? It's like they have like hinged feet or whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah. From what I hear, those guys like hobble around the gym, like they can barely walk.
Fucking arthritic dudes.
Yeah.
That's all I got today on competition and the
That's the
ideas.
show?
I don't know if it's the show. We might have a short one today.
That's all right.
Want to get to the questions?
Let's do the questions.
All right, I'll read this one. Since
It is a good question.
just listed.
Oh, I want to. I will get to it
Okay.
later.
All right. Just listed to your latest one. You guys are definitely getting the hang of it now. Good stuff. Thanks for the compliment. We appreciate that. We're working.
19 episodes in.
We're working hard. Question: in my school, there are 2 4th-degree black belts, main instructors, and about 4 regular black belts, including myself. For a small school, that's very unusual, and especially on the island. A few weeks ago, a group of upper belts were talking about each other's BJJ game. Most students are in their 20s and low 30s, very athletic. All of black belts' BJJ games were described as modern, meaning lots of lapels, inverted, and 50-50 positions. Mine game was hands down described a traditional classic BJJ. I didn't know how to take it. They calling me old? I mean, I am, but Carlos 3.0 Island Edition may be uploaded. But seriously, would you rather have a classical traditional game or modern? I'm heavy on self-defense and practice positions that work in real-life situations. What are your thoughts? Carlos Rodriguez, NJMA Black Belt, Puerto Rico Division. So I think, like, you sent me the video of the gymnast from 1912 versus a gymnast from 2014, right? And you could just see the technical and the physical differences in how much more athletic the 2014 version of a gymnast is over a 1912 version of the gymnast. But I think there's certain elements of gymnastics that, you got to grab the bar a certain way, you got to hold, you got to twist, you got to do all these other things. So I think if you can effectively make traditional jiu-jitsu work, then that's probably the best for 99% of the jiu-jitsu population, right? Now, if you could do that and also add the idea of lapels, 50-50, inverted, because if you don't have the backup of either traditional jiu-jitsu, your elbow escapes, your bump and rolls and all that good stuff, all the techniques that Carlos is saying works, when and if those techniques fail, then what do you fall back upon? If you're playing lapel guard, you fall back to 50-50. If 50-50 fails, what do you fall back to? Close guard, right? And if you have a shitty close guard, then what do you fall back to then? So I think it's a compliment because the basics of jiu-jitsu work across all modalities, right? Lapel guard doesn't work in MMA, but the mount does, right? 50-50 might not be the best in no-gi, but it could work with the gi way better. So I don't know if it's an insult. It's just that people are very they gravitate towards what's new and what's shiny and what the newest and latest competitors are using to a high level of success. I think that needs to percolate down because for the sport to grow, we just need to add new ideas and new techniques, but based off of solid foundation of fundamentals and basics.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't have both. You know what I mean? Like you can have great basic traditional jiu-jitsu and also be good at all the new fancy stuff.
Right.
It's like, you ever hear the Fosbury flop?
Yes, the way they used to jump over the high jump. Yeah.
They just used to like dive over it face first.
Yes.
And then this guy just came out of nowhere and he would like turn his back and jump backwards
That's
over
the
it.
Fosbury flop?
That's the Fosbury flop, was
Okay.
jumping backwards over it. And that completely revolutionized the sport. It's kind of the same if you're talking about gi jiu-jitsu, doing lapel guard stuff. I mean, first it started with like spider guard stuff.
Right.
People used to talk shit on spider guard
Right.
back when back at exercise. Like
Right,
Steve Max, like, oh, you just hold on to the sleeves all day.
Yeah. Everything's just do this and you'll defeat
You're just
that.
holding the sleeves and stalling. He's like, no,
Right.
I'm holding the sleeves and triangling you.
Right.
And then I'm sweeping you with it. It's the same thing with lapel and 50-50. Nothing should be ignored.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you just do basic jiu-jitsu and you go against a guy that's good at the other stuff, you're going to be lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
Eventually. Like,
right. And Carlos is not the kind of guy that doesn't know a lot of this newer stuff. He's competed an awful lot, but you know, the stuff that's always worked for him to a high level of success in competition and in training has been those harder core, more aggressive style moves.
Yeah. And a lot of times if you're really good at that style, you can avoid the fancy stuff because you just kind of get a smash on somebody and they can't ever get anything going. But if you get a guy that's super fast with his transitions and he gets a grip on your lapel, you're never going to get to smash him until you figure out how to beat the lapel guard. And I think the best way to learn how to beat those things is to learn them, which I tell people that when so Zach Askin comes in and footlocks everybody.
Right.
And people are like, how do I stop it? I was like, you need to learn how to do footlocks. Like, you need to learn heel hooks.
Right.
Is the best way to learn how to
bring
avoid
them into your game.
Yeah, like just learn how to do heel hooks and then learn footlocks, learn the entire game. Once you know how to, because you can figure out the defense almost through your exploration of the offense.
Right, like why is this not working here? What is he doing?
And then you just start doing whatever stops you from getting the heel hook. And that's one of the reasons why I used to think lapel guard was stupid until I started doing it and realized how powerful it was.
Right.
And how easy it is to like just stop people from doing anything to you.
So do you think, I guess the other idea is when you have a limited amount of time to dedicate to jiu-jitsu, right, where is your time better served for your overall kind of game? Say if we'll use Carlos as an example. He wants to compete some, but he wants it to be able to work for law enforcement because that's what he does for a living and also his training, right? Is it smart to do lapel guard or focus on that other stuff if your time is limited?
If his focus is for law enforcement, then he should probably be training like specifically for law enforcement,
Right.
like in his law enforcement gear.
No, I got it. But I'm saying like his jiu-jitsu
but yeah,
focus.
he should just be focused on like taking people down, controlling them, and taking people down and controlling them, not even submitting them.
Right.
You know,
To take it across the modalities, as we say.
Yeah. But you know, don't shy away from the new tricky weird stuff.
Right.
Learn it at least enough to the point where you can understand what's going on and you're not going to be just a victim of it.
See, and I don't teach it a lot just because I don't do it, but I allow people in my school when I'm not teaching work on whatever you want, man. Like I'm not going to put you want to play lapel guard. You know, Carl Swanson when he was training at my school, he was the guy pushing the envelope with heel hooks and all that other stuff. It's like, hey man, bring it in, go drill it. You know, like let everyone else work on it because there's another part of it too. Is your instructor is only responsible for the jiu-jitsu he teaches you. He's not responsible for the jiu-jitsu that you want to go out and learn if it's different than what he's teaching you. And when I say responsible, I mean he's got a program set up for you. He's going to teach you certain things because he wants to take you down a certain path. If you want to expand from that path, your school should allow you to do so.
Yeah, if you like if your jiu-jitsu just consists of going to class and learning what's in the class, you got to understand the class is for
everybody.
You know, between 10 to 30 people.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what class you're in. I've heard like Donaher's class, he says he teaches for the best guys in the room, his classes. So it's like, doesn't matter if you're a white belt or a black belt, like you're going to learn what Nicky Ryan needs to learn.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or Gordon Ryan needs to learn. So that might not be what you need to learn because you're just starting out.
Right.
You might need to work on escapes, but if you go to that class, you're working on heel hook defense.
Right. Reverse X. So, heel hook entries.
The class, like, that's when private lessons can be good. You know what I mean? If there's something you specifically want to work on that you haven't done in class because most people wouldn't benefit from it,
right?
Then do a private lesson.
Yeah,
study videotape.
Or come in and like don't always use open mat as a time to train with people, right? You can use it as a time to drill or work on new techniques. And if your school or your instructor is a good dude or wants you to get better, you could always ask them while you're drilling, hey, can you keep an eye on me? You know, am I doing this right? Is there something wrong with this technique? I'm not really good at it. I know this isn't what you're teaching, but I want to add this to my game.
Yeah, I'll always work with people. If they ask me if there's something like they want to work on, they ask me at open mat or after class, whatever, I'll always I'll always take time, and I love doing that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
stuff.
no, and I think it's the best way to go, and I think people should start taking should take greater responsibility for their development in jiu-jitsu as well.
Mhm.
Right? It's not all just your instructor. Your instructor has a program and a path set up for the class. You're gonna definitely benefit from it, but if you want to work on certain things that's outside of what your instructor's teaching, make sure you work on them. There's always times at every school to work on that stuff.
Mhm.
So, Carlos, I don't think it's an insult. I think they're actually complimenting you because that stuff's going to work when you're 60 as well as when you're 40. So,
But don't be scared of lapels, inversions, and 50-50s.
yeah. Moving on. Hopefully you're doing well in Puerto Rico, Carlos.
Yeah, we miss you.
Some of us.
This is a great question.
Go ahead.
What is your signature dish to cook, and why does that make you better than your co-host?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that my co-host is better than me at this aspect
I
of
was
his
hoping
life.
this would spark.
Yeah, some sort of
But
debate.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you made me donuts one time. You brought me donuts.
Yeah.
They were very good. Pork tenderloin.
Mm-hmm.
You made a very nice
No, it wasn't tenderloin. It was it
Pork-
was like pulled pork.
pulled
Like
pork
shoulder.
pork shoulder. Very, very, very good, tasty.
Yeah, I like to cook.
Yeah, I can make a steak. I can.
See, that's what I was thinking. Like, I was gonna say I probably know a little bit more about cooking. I like to cook more than
Right.
you do, but we both like to cook steak. So
Yes.
we should do a steak cook-off.
Let's do it.
But I think I would smash you because I'm a sous vide guy now.
Now, who turned you on to the sous vide?
My
Bow.
boy,
Bow. Who?
JB.
Who?
JB.
Bro. See, he doesn't even talk to you anymore.
I know.
I know. Did we ever get to the bottom of that?
Nah.
No, that's all right. Okay. But no, I'm a sous vide guy as well.
No, you're not.
I was the first sous vide guy.
No, you don't. You don't even have a sous vide.
I use
Yeah, you
the
used
Instant Pot I have doubles as a sous vide.
a bootleg karate instructor using a bootleg sous vide.
Not bootleg. It's multi-purpose.
Um,
So yeah, so I would overall Tim is likely a better cook than I am. I have a much more refined palate than he does because he's a fucking Cro-Magnon man. But again, I digress. Two things. My dear friend Nate Carabello says he does not understand why you don't reach across the table and strangle me. He goes, "You fuck with him the whole time." I go, "He gets his digs in." The second thing, we were out to dinner the other night, and I go, "Yeah, my buddy Matt." Immediately he goes, "Meathead Matt?" I go, "Yes, 100%." He's never met Matt, so Meathead Matt, you are somewhat famous.
we're developing like
A fan base,
no, like a
cast of
you
characters.
know how Howard Stern had like
The Whack Pack.
Yeah, he had Beetlejuice. And,
So Meathead Matt's like our Beetlejuice.
Who was the other High Pitch Eric?
Right. Hi.
Yeah. Who else did he have? I don't know. He had a lot of people.
Yeah, he
we
definitely-
got Meathead Matt. We have Santini.
Yeah.
Santini's upset that he doesn't have a nickname.
Santini is his nickname. The Great Santini.
Nah, that's using his name as a nickname. He would prefer Kronos, Lord of Time,
No.
or the Time Master. Those were his.
What? Why? So Meathead Matt. There's clearly a path to how we got
Santini's
to Meathead Matt.
obsessed with time. He's very pumped.
He's always late to open Matt.
He's not obsessed with being on time. He's
Okay.
just obsessed with time.
The actual
The concept,
figment.
the
The
concept
figment
of
of our imagination.
the concept of
Okay,
it.
what if we
and
call him Figment
the
then?
management of it? Not necessarily
Figment. His nickname is now Figment of
Okay.
Time.
figment.
All right. In your opinion, which are the best and worst tournaments to compete in for the average jiu-jitsu player and why? Well, if you're an average jiu-jitsu player, you should be doing average tournaments. But if you want to be a superior jiu-jitsu player, I think most IBJJF tournaments are very well run, very well organized. The refereeing has gotten a lot better, not perfect, but I don't think there's any tournament with perfect refereeing from a gi perspective. The no gi pans was really well run. And when I say well run, you have a good idea of when your match is coming up. Everything is you pre-register, so it's not a clusterfuck the day of the tournament. And you have a basic idea of what time your match is and that kind of stuff. One interesting thing that happened to our buddy Des McDonald is there was he got disqualified for weighing in. He didn't realize that he was officially weighing in because his match wasn't for an hour and a half. They brought him to the scale. He weighed in. He thought he was just checking his weight. He was a quarter pound over. They disqualified him on the spot.
That's fucking terrible.
Yeah. I mean, what I will give him credit is he took complete ownership of it. He tried to get it fixed. He goes, my fault. He's like, I should have known.
Yeah.
I should have asked. Like, he wasn't making any excuse whatsoever. But that sucked balls. Him and his brother's there. They got to go up to New York. You paid $150 to compete.
That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's good that he has that attitude, but that's IBJJF is. They're almost too strict on some things,
man. But if you
at dumb things, when I'm a firm believer in having like strict rules and like and like sticking to them, but like that's if you're not weighing in for your match.
But I think the guy, whoever was holding the clipboard, thought he was weighing him in for the match.
And the other problem is a lot of those people that they have working don't speak English.
Or not, their English isn't great, or it wasn't clear what was going on,
So
you know?
when they were announcing my name last year at the Masters,
Okay.
so I signed up as Tim Carpenter, but my full name is Timothy Brandon Carpenter. So they were calling Timoch Brando. And I could see that my name was on the board, so I knew they were talking about me, but
if you don't know,
if it's your, and this is IBJJF is not good for the average person.
correct.
The average person, I think you should start at like a good fight, because then you don't even need to worry about points.
Right. You could just compete.
You just go in and kind of have a match against somebody under stressful conditions.
Right. Just go out there against somebody you don't know.
And then go to like
Grappling Industries.
Grappling Industries, New Breed, the lower level local tournaments, US Grappling.
When Grappler's Quest was around, I thought that was a really good tournament, but they're not around anymore.
And even Grappler's Quest, they were great, because you could get, they would have like these super fight divisions, and a lot of those super fight guys would just enter the advanced division too. So if you were competing in the advanced division, you could compete against a world champ.
But so going back to your whole Timoch Brando, it's ridiculous that they even give the orders in Portuguese. If you're doing the tournament in the United States, like I got into an argument at some small tournament where they're like, well, why doesn't he know that paro means stop? I go, because he paid for this tournament in dollars and he just assumed that the rest of it's going to be in English.
Right. If they're doing it in the U.S., and they do have plenty of people that speak good enough English, it's just they seem to give the job of announcing to somebody that speaks zero English.
And so, but I guess the counter argument would be they don't have that problem in judo.
They don't do things in well, yeah, okay. And when they're doing the scoring, they don't do the scoring by like words. They do hand signs.
Okay.
And words, but you know all the words in.
But that's also part, like you're enculturated. Most judo schools, you count in
Japanese.
Japanese.
But when they call your name, they don't call your name in Japanese.
Right. Baseball.
You know, they have somebody calling your name that speaks English.
Right.
Or can at least pronounce your name.
Right. So, I mean, but they'll say mate or, I got to ask you about this. We're all off of topic here. But submissions in judo are the most brutal finishes you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, because the referee never jumps in. He expects the competitor to let go.
Yeah.
I've seen more guys get their arms.
He stands like 10 feet away and just puts his hand up.
Yes.
And says, mate, hoping they see.
More guys get slept and arms broken in judo than in any jiu-jitsu tournament I've ever seen.
Yeah, judo's got a lot of things. The pace of judo is way more intense. So when guys, it's not like a prolonged ground exchange leading to a submission. It's like you jump on it and you try to rip it, or you get a choke and you just squeeze until the ref like tells you to stop. So yeah, if you're going against a judo guy and he gets something, you should tap quick, because it's not going to be coming on slow and controlled.
Right. Yeah, that was the one thing about judo where you see, man, the referee, it's almost like they don't care about the competitor that's getting injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So we're going back to the original question. So yes, I think IBJJF is not for the average guy. From a no-gi perspective, ADCC would be the lower levels of it, because they have like a circuit that they do for the qualifier, right? Again, not for the average guy though, for someone that's a legitimate competitor.
I don't know if ADCC, they have the trials.
Yes.
But do they do many? I don't think they do many like no gi.
Not many. They do a
good
couple.
amount of gi events, like both, and they do some in New York. They do some, and they do some across the world in like different countries.
Right.
They do actually. I think they do more gi events than they do no gi, other than the World Championships.
Gotcha. I thought that they did a couple more, but regardless, but I think if you're gonna do the trials, you better have a lot of experience.
Do a bunch of nagas first.
Yeah.
You know.
What are your thoughts on the naga? I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan either, but I think if you are somebody that wants to compete in IBJJF or ADCC competitions, your progression should go good fight, and then the next step up I think would be like new breed, grappling industries, like those tournaments.
Okay.
Then like a Fuji tournament.
Okay.
Then an IBJJF tournament. Oh no, put a Naga in there.
Right.
Naga's like maybe. The thing about Naga is you'll have a lot of matches.
That's the thing. You do get a lot of
you
matches.
get a good turnout at Nagas usually.
I'm just not a fan of how they treat the competitors and the customer.
It's not a well run tournament
Right.
usually.
But it's a well attended tournament for
It's a
sure.
well attended tournament, and you'll get some tough matches. So Naga should be like maybe like right before you go into IBJJF, and then IBJJF, and then go into, if you can hang there, then go to the higher levels.
Now, one of my students, I was asking, "Hey, you're gonna go do the good fights?" No, I want to focus on like more of the points tournament. And my advice to him was like, I think you just need to focus on competing.
Yeah.
At
Doesn't
this-
matter the rule set.
Yeah, you should like the rules set shouldn't hinder your performance.
It's all competition.
Yeah,
Because the hard part about competition isn't the rule set necessarily. That's an element of it.
it's the stress of the day.
It's the people watching you. It's the opponent you don't know.
How much energy you just burn just
It's
walking out onto the mat.
It's the referee telling
nervousness,
you what to do.
yeah.
That's the stuff that people need to get used to, and that's the stuff that you can only get from competition. You can't really train for that.
You look at a guy like, again, we'll use Keenan Cornelius because it was really cool seeing him at the Pans, but man, he's competing. Next thing you know, he's like sitting, talking to Flow Grappling. Like it's not like there's like he order me a cheeseburger. Like
And
it's
I've heard
not-
him say that he gets very nervous before tournaments.
Okay.
But it's like you'll always get nervous for a tournament, but the more you do it, the more you're just able to manage it. It just seems like you're at work or you're doing what
right,
you
but
normally do.
it's also it's like working out, right? You know, like when you first work out, it's like, oh, it's so hard, and then you got to work out more and more and more and more to get that same pump or that same feel. But he's still getting nervous. His body just knows, oh, this is when I'm going to get nervous, right?
Yes, it was. I remember that when I was fighting very consistently, like when I would fight like once a year, it was always a big event. And then it's like if I have 3 fights in 6 months, then it's like
Right.
It's just you're used to it.
And that's the
your body's
advice
ready for it.
I give the guys at my school. I was like, look, I'm going to help you get ready for tournaments, but that's not going to be my main focus, right? Because if you have 100 students, 10 of them might be year-round active competitors.
Right.
So like, you guys need to go out on your own to go to some tournaments that I may not even be able to go to, and just go compete
Just go
and
do it.
lean on each other, and you know, like, and get better that way too, to get your competition. I'll get your jiu-jitsu good. You need to work on your competition game.
Yeah, if you want to compete in a higher level like IBJJF, like if you want to do the Nogi Pan Ams, like you should do at least 3 things before that
Yeah.
to warm yourself up and understand how you're going to feel out there.
And I have a couple guys competing today at the Good Fight because I was like, hey, you guys should keep this ball. Like if you just competed last week, compete again this week. You're young enough and your
Best
body's
thing to
healed,
do after a loss is to get right back in and do
Right.
it again.
and go after it and keep going. So you said earlier you had something you wanted to add.
Oh, last week, the question about like what's the best weight class? How do you find the best weight class? It was a terrible question,
Okay.
but I feel like I was a little bit too harsh on the person who sent it.
I think that was another anonymous, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was anonymous.
Okay.
So, I don't want to discourage anybody from sending in dumb questions. Just try your best to ask a good question. Like, be specific about what you're talking about. Like, more details, not just like, hey, what weight should I be?
Right. Well, we don't
Like,
know. Are you 7'2"?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you in shape? Are you out of shape?
Right.
Like a better way to ask that question would be, hi, I've been training for 2 years. I'm in fairly good shape.
Body fat percentage, 11%.
I don't even need to body fat. But like, I train 3 times a week. I weigh 200 pounds and I'm 5'6".
Right.
I don't really lift weights or anything.
One of my students texted me the other day. He goes, hey, do you think I should cut 8 pounds? Right? So, because he's competing today.
Right.
And I go, well, have you cut weight before? No. What class are you trying to get into? 205. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, don't do it.
Yeah.
If you've never cut weight before, the first time you're going to do it is it's a tournament that you're going to do that's, okay, it might be hard, but it's not that difficult of a tournament. Don't do it. He winds up doing it anyway. I think he said he needed to cut 8, he cut 15. Right? So it's like, all right, what's going on? I texted him. I said,
So did you get into the next weight class below that?
I don't know, but I said, I'm glad you listened.
Yeah.
You know,
15.
but I think weight cutting is important when it's important. If you're doing the Good Fight, if you're doing grappling industries, you should probably go in as whatever weight you happen to wake up that morning. It's not that big of a deal. It's not, you're not fighting for the 170-pound
If you're
title.
getting ready for an IBJJF tournament and you know it's coming up in 2 months, then you set yourself a goal of like, I have to be
lose weight, not cut weight,
216 pounds by this date. So that way, because IBJJF, you can't really cut weight because you weigh in right before your match.
Yeah, so clearly not, because if they weighed Dev in an hour and a half before his match, that seems to have changed.
Yeah, but I still don't think that's a good amount of time to give yourself to
rehydrate.
A little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's better than just going right out and competing, but still not too much. But like I said, I don't want to discourage
Dumb questions?
I do want to discourage dumb questions. Do
you
but
want to
more
discourage
so,
poorly written questions?
I want to encourage questions like that could have been great if the person would just ask them better.
I don't think that question could have ever been great, no matter how much information they gave us.
If they had given us if it had been like,
I have something against the word great.
I don't know. The question could have been better.
Okay. So
less terrible.
I got a recommendation for a cheesesteak place that a friend of mine thought was the best place in the city.
Did you try it?
Not yet.
What is it?
I think it's a place called, it's on 2nd and Market. Sonny's, maybe? I'm not too familiar. I thought Campo's was up there, but I have to check my phone.
Try it?
Probably. I've been eating like shit for the last week, so.
Really?
Yeah, love it.
What have you been eating?
Wawa Donuts.
Really?
Wawa Donuts, a solid donut. The glazed and the Boston cream, it's a solid.
Most donuts are solid donuts.
Nah.
I've
This
rarely had
this shit's
shitty
on a-
donuts, unless
shit's
they're
on
like
a Dunkin'.
day old. Really?
shit's on a
I mean,
Dunkin'.
I haven't had a Dunkin' Donut in
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
years.
No,
Probably.
the Wawa Donut's a solid convenience store donut.
They
Solid.
make a great apple fritter. Have you had the apple fritter?
I have not.
It weighs like 8 pounds. It's amazing.
All right.
It's got a great texture too. It's kind of crunchy on the outside,
Okay.
but then very soft, but also chewy on the inside. It's a great pastry.
Our inner fat kids are really coming out today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've really shit the bed with my diet this week.
Not me. I've been
Fasting?
intermittent eating.
Intermittent eating. All
I
right.
eat once or twice a day.
All right, folks. I think that's it. We're losing steam. Tim came in with no luster.
Maybe it's the fasting.
Yeah, intermittent eating. So I'd like to thank all of our loyal listeners. Please continue to rate, review, let your friends know about it. Tim and I are close to setting a date for the Ninja Rob podcast
Super seminar.
Super Seminar. Also, some other things in the work. Our sticker.
In the works, plural.
Yeah, and then a third thing.
In the work.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit far off, but it's gonna blow the top off of the jiu-jitsu world.
Really?
Probably not, but
It's worth a shot.
yeah. All right, folks. Tim and I would like to thank our sound engineer and studio owner, Devin Wade, for always doing a great job with the sound, but also the beautiful facility that we get to use here at SFX Studios. We'd also like to thank Eddie Lynn, who takes and donates his time to the podcast to do all the video editing and everything you see on our social media. So really appreciate that from Eddie Lynn. And we'd also like to thank our friend Ralphie Darden, a.k.a. DJ Major Taylor, who gave us the original music that we use. So you're welcome, Tim. For
And
saving
almost just as importantly as everybody else that he mentioned, we would like to thank all of our listeners that submitted questions.
This is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter, the podcast for the true martial artist.